5 seconds early, so it's now 6 o'clock.
Yep.
We're going to look at special request for.
We need to approve the minutes first
Oh,
from the
I'm sorry.
September.
Gotta go back.
We'll do the roll call.
Yeah.
Yeah, we gotta do the roll call.
We're all here.
Yeah.
Aye.
Yep.
There's 4 of us here, so that gives us
We
a
have quorum,
quorum
yep.
out of 7. You'll have to excuse me because I've been only doing this for 2 times now, so I'm a little slow on the uptake. And I need to have I'm sorry.
That doesn't amplify, it doesn't amplify, it just records.
Oh, okay. We need to have an approval of last
I'll-
meetings.
I'll
minutes.
move to approve last meeting's minutes.
I'll second it.
Do I have, all those in favor say aye?
Aye.
All those in favor, against, same sign. Motion passes.
Okay.
Okay. Now I'm ready, right?
Yep.
So, Julie, do you want to start out with this?
I'll present the first case on your
Oh, I'm
agenda.
sorry.
So the first
I'm sorry,
item,
Bethany.
yeah, no, that's okay. The
First
first
item-
item, yep, it's 2023-28 SUP. It's a request for a special use for a childcare center at 1913 Choctaw, and Bethany will do this one.
Right, okay, thanks, Bethany.
So the applicants, Gerald and Vanessa Jackson, are requesting a special use permit to allow operation of the child care center in their home located at 1913 Choctaw. The property is zoned R19. Child care centers are allowed in the R19 zoning district with the issuance of a special use permit. The applicant is licensed by the state of Kansas to care for a maximum of 12 children, dependent upon the ages of the child, or the children in care. The conditions of determination that the planning commission uses is as follows. Shall not be located along an arterial street designated on the major street plan map unless indirect vehicular access to that street, such as with a frontage road, is available. The subject property is located along Choctaw, which is classified as a residential street. 2, shall provide at least 100 square feet of open space per child. This open space shall be 100% enclosed by a minimum 4-foot high fence or wall. The subject property includes a backyard area of approximately 5,800 square feet, enclosed by a 4-foot chain link fence. 3, shall provide a loading zone capable of accommodating at least 2 automobiles for easy picking up and discharging of passengers. The subject property includes a driveway capable of accommodating 4 cars. 4, shall conform to all requirements of the state of Kansas and shall acquire a state of Kansas child care center license. They have provided a copy from the Kansas Department of Health and Environment. 5, all child care centers operated in residential zoning districts shall be the only legal residence of the operator. The home functions as the only residence of the operator owner. And 6, child care centers in residential districts may have one non-illuminated monument sign with no more than 3 square feet per side and a maximum of 2 sides. Any signage displayed will conform to this requirement. We've not had a request thus far. And the commission may recommend issuance of the special use permit whenever it finds that the proposed special use complies with all applicable provisions of this ordinance. Staff believes that this application complies with all provisions of the development regulations. 2, that the proposed special use at the specified location will contribute to and promote the economic development, welfare, and convenience of the public. Child care centers are an essential service to working parents in the community and promote the economic development, welfare, and convenience of the public. 3, the special use will not cause substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood in which it is located. Staff does not feel that the proposed child care center will cause any substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood. 4, The location and size of the special use, the nature and intensity of the operation involved in or conducted in connection with, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it are such that the special use will not dominate the immediate neighborhood. No new structures or building modifications are proposed as part of this special use permit. The property will continue to look and function as a residential structure. Notification was sent to property owners within 200 feet as required by Kansas statute. Since notifications were mailed, staff has received one inquiry from notified property owners who was against the special use permit. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit requested based on the analysis and findings included herein, subject to the following conditions: a minimum of 1,200 square feet of open space 100% enclosed by a minimum 4 feet high fence or wall shall be provided and maintained in good condition. A copy of the permanent home license shall be provided annually upon renewal by the state of Kansas. The operation shall be limited to a maximum of 12 children. No additional home occupations may be carried out at the residence. Failure to maintain compliance with all conditions shall result in the removal of the special use permit. And the applicants are here.
Do the applicants want to speak or? Okay,
Can I
Yeah,
ask,
if the applicants would like to come up to the podium and just, say a few words.
I do have a question of the staff report.
Sure.
Is that after they speak?
all right then,
You can go ahead and ask staff if you'd like.
go ahead.
The one inquiry from the neighboring property, was there anything specific on why they would oppose this special use permit?
I believe that property owner is here, and probably intends to speak, so we'll let them elaborate on
Is
that.
that true? Is that person?
Yes,
Okay, all right, thank you.
but I didn't say I was against the permit at that time.
Okay, yep, well, then we'll get that when we open the floor, thank you, I just wanted to make sure that if that person was here, they were represented, okay.
State your names, please.
State your name,
Jackson.
Joe Jackson.
okay. And how long, and what's your tenure as childcare, et cetera?
I'm sorry?
What has been your tenure or your, as childcare or,
When I opened the daycare center, I opened back in 2020 at a previous address.
uh-huh,
How long, and you've kept it running since then?
Yes,
And the address change is,
in August. We moved in August. We needed more space.
Needed more
We
space.
outgrew our home.
okay, and are there any changes to your daycare, your allotment, how many kids you
No,
have or anything like that? There's no change to your business model or
No.
whatever? And what have you put together to, have you talked with the neighborhood? Have you kind of laid out how you're doing pickup and drop off and all of that? It looks like it's in a cul-de-sac, so
Yeah.
that's gonna make it a little interesting. So tell me, or tell us what you
When
have
we
planned
first
there.
moved in, everybody in the neighborhood was very nice and came out and met us, and we kind of told them, we run a family daycare at home, and everyone seemed okay with it. I know there has been an issue with a little bit of the parking because of the way the cul-de-sac is, there was one car that blocked a neighbor's driveway. It wasn't for an extremely long amount of time, but I corrected the issue. I spoke with the parent and just, asked that you please not block any of the driveways, and if need be, just, pull in front of our driveway. All of my families are really good about, we all know each other, we've known each other for a long time, so we're a tight-knit group, so everybody, is helpful to know that we need to be respectful of everybody's property.
Is pickup drop off usually around the same times, or does it vary with
It's
the
usually about the
clients?
same time.
Okay.
We open at 7, but I have a lot of families that don't come until 7:30.
Okay.
And then pickup is between 4, 5:30. 4 is probably our busiest time.
And we're talking, a maximum of 12 kids.
Right, and I have some infants, so right now the most we can have is 9. So it wouldn't even be full capacity, it's just the 9 kids. And we don't even have 9, we have 8 enrolled right now.
Okay. And both of you maintain employee, or you're the only employees of
we do it
this?
together.
Okay, okay.
That's all. Anybody else have any other questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Do we open it to the public hearing?
Yep, you can
Yeah, we
open it to the
open
public.
to the public, yes.
Yep, and we would just ask that any members of the public that are here to speak, sign in their name and email address and home address on the sheet that's up there,
Okay.
so we can keep track of that.
Thank you very much.
Have a seat, we may bring you back up
They have
if
some
we have
questions.
some more questions. All right, yeah, first, somebody jump up there. And just clearly state your name and your address into the microphone so that we have that.
Thank you, Brian.
David Sedgwick, 405 South 19th Street. Problem I have with it is, one, we were never talked to.
Okay.
With these people, tonight's the first time I met them. And the main thing is that cars that are coming through there, little boy almost got hit and killed 2 weeks ago. The cars fly through there. Once they get up to the cul-de-sac, they slow down at that corner. But when they come out close to Clay, right up into his yard at times.
Okay.
And then they fly down through there.
And so you're talking about coming up Choctaw here?
Yeah, coming off.
Just give me
South
a-
Hall to 19,
Okay,
yeah. They come in here, cut right across here some, and then they fly down this street and up the hill, and they've also coming in.
okay,
I was standing out there one day and car was doing every bit of 50.
sure. And this wasn't occurring before the daycare?
No,
Okay. And how long have you lived at this property?
28 years.
That's a good time.
We need to have everybody stay
Yeah,
at the
I'm sorry.
microphone, otherwise it
That's-
won't pick up for the
yeah.
recording.
My fault.
No,
Okay.
that's good.
How many years have you lived there?
28 years.
And you've never had 50-mile-an-hour traffic coming down that street since the daycare started
No.
until that?
Before this, once in a while you get somebody crazy come up through there. But there's dead end signs, because it was cul-de-sac at either end. And a lot of people, sometimes they'll come up through there, turn around, and then they'll fly out. But most time, no.
Okay. All right. Any other comments? We thank you for your comments. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Anybody else?
My name's Linda Bonsack. I live across the cul-de-sac on the north side on Choctaw at 1912. I was a little concerned when the owner mentioned that they had a daycare, just 6 or 8 people. But a lot of times people don't realize that 6 or 8 people means 12 to 16 trips a day, or at a period of drop-off, and then another 12 to 16 in the evening when they pick up. The first day was total chaos, and it was people trying to get in position to find somewhere to park and get in and out, and double parking, and it was a mess. But you could tell that the owners had talked to the people, and they soon got into a pretty good rhythm, and I don't really even notice it a whole lot now. But there's still a little bit of problem about parking. We have what's called lazy back curbs on our driveways. And most people cannot handle that. Their little bitty cars won't go over those curbs without dragging. So you have to angle in to be able to get in and out of the parking lot. So even if a block is a car that's parked on the street isn't actually in front of the driveway, it still can be blocking the driveway and the ability for the person to get in and out from. Also, we do have a lot of young people living on our block. There's a lot of us old fogies that are retired, and it's a wonderful place. But it's there's 3 homes on Choctaw that have young children. David and his wife take care of the grandchildren, and there's another family who lives down south. And there's always cars parked along 19th Street, so you have to kind of thread your way through. Sure. And we could use some traffic calming in that area somehow, either speed limit sign or something to be able to slow people down a little bit. I remember what it was like going to work and having to get your kids to the daycare and then rushing home to try and get them picked up and get home and get supper. But this is a very quiet neighborhood. If it was a through street, we probably wouldn't even notice, just be a little bit of a blip in the traffic patterns. But when you're on a cul-de-sac, it shows when you have extra people in the area. Also, we're one of the fortunate neighborhoods in Leavenworth where we have sidewalks. And so we have a lot of people that come into our neighborhood that walk the dogs, walk for their health and things like that. So
Sure.
A little bit of help in that area would do. Otherwise, in my opinion, I think they've done a very good job.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate your comments. Very good. Anyone else want to speak on this matter? Please.
If I may, I'll give you something.
Sure.
Sure.
Because I have a story to tell.
Okay, thank you.
Is there just one copy of that?
Yes, it did.
Okay. You can pass it down when you're done.
Huh?
That's okay. Just give us some time to look at it, if we could.
Is it along with your?
I'm gonna come right down to it, it's just where you keep going where I'm at.
Okay.
Can I
Okay.
get an
And
address?
just flip that.
Yeah.
Do we have your name and address?
My name is Mike Ingram. I live at 1908 Choctaw Street with my wife Bonnie.
And for us,
Oh, yeah, I can show that.
Okay, so right
There's a
here.
map that I got in there too. As you come up, actually the neighborhood is from 19th and High down here, all the way up on an enclosed street to Choctaw, dead end to the east, cul-de-sac to the west. 1908 is where I'm at.
okay.
Okay.
This is where the subject property is.
Sorry, again, we need to have everybody stay at the
Yep.
podium or your comments will not pick up for our recording.
Yep. So you pointed out where you are, where the address or where the neighborhood starts.
That's the answer.
Go ahead.
Okay, well anyways, I represent and speak for 11 owner-occupied households. And they're shown in red on that first chart I showed you. We're pretty close, starting with down at the South 19th and up on Choctaw. We all oppose the application for a special use permit for this child care center, as you call it. One thing we do not do is speak personally against the Jacksons. Everything I might bring up in here tonight is about business decisions. I'll put a map in here to show you a little different view here that we're coming up from, is probably you're all familiar with. I think we've seen who everybody is before. We're just up from the famous warehouse and Family Dollar, coming up 19th from Spruce, down at that 20th Street, Casey's. So this is an enclosed neighborhood past that point, 31 houses. We're an enclosed neighborhood, a micro neighborhood that has 31 detached single-family homes, older properties mostly, primarily owner-occupied, and we're now mostly retirees actually, at home through the day. And we have a few people that work from home during the day. And as you heard earlier, Dave told you, we have some issues. The first issue is adverse effects on the neighborhood. The next will be this overall process that we've had sprung on us. And the next issue I'm going to bring up will be legalities. Adverse effects, it all revolves around traffic increase. I think Linda summed it up pretty nicely. I didn't know she would be here tonight. I'm not representing her. I'm not representing Ron and Luann over there. But I've heard things from other people, heard things from them. This traffic on August 14th, they dropped into the neighborhood running hot with a unpermitted daycare. I knew because, well, we seen play equipment over that weekend, of which we weren't being informed of anything. And on that morning, Monday morning, I was on my screen back porch having breakfast and heard cars coming. I figured it out over the course of that week, who they were, what was going on, and some other things. The traffic, though, it is a significant increase in vehicular traffic, as was stated. Every one of these potentially 12 clients means up and back all the way, up and back all the way again. It could be 48 vehicle passes that we've had in addition to what we had. That could be like 6 or 7 more houses at the end, all of a sudden. This alone greatly diminishes the traffic minimizing quality of the cul-de-sac. And that connects to, unfortunately, the values of the properties. Property value in terms of market price at any time, or the value we place on being there.
Pass that down, I think he's done.
The bad part about it is, as you've heard before, some of the traffic's been out of compliance with traffic laws. They had trouble parking, but mainly they've had neighbors who told me, I never brought it up with a neighbor about the daycare or our new neighbors. I was out in gardening, working in the yard, and people said, how about the new neighbors? I was telling people about something else, I'll tell you. My neighbors now have observed speeding, driving impatiently and recklessly. We have to say it's impatient, but we can see it's reckless, especially at that T intersection. We've also observed repeatedly parking wrongly in the cul-de-sac, overhanging and just being confused. And it's a matter of, yeah, they have 4 spaces, but when you get a third person there or more, you got this problem in a cul-de-sac. That's all. And there might be a mitigation that can be done, marking some spaces off on the opposite side. We've had this problem historically. There's not really parking in the cul-de-sac for more than maybe 2 vehicles. So it's changed our driving, walking, dog walking, playing, and bicycle riding habits. From 14 August, I can see that. And that's what people have told me as I've gone around and said, hey, I got the notice. I'd like you to know the notice, as we were told. And I was surprised about how unhappy and disturbed some people are. Disturbed by this view getting in their face of this non-compliance with traffic laws, the danger that it presents, and this being popped on us out of the blue on 14 August. So what we've done ourselves, on the 1st of September, I wandered down here, actually, and I requested through proper authority a sign for 19th and High. We lost our dead-end sign way back. We had a no outlet sign in between. We lost it. Didn't have anything facing south. We were getting a lot of lost traffic. It compounded this problem. I requested a big no outlet sign, and the city delivered sometime soon after that a huge yellow no outlet sign down there. That's helped some. The next thing, I had Sergeant Brandon Mance, Traffic Division Chief, come out. We spent an hour on the 5th of September, day after Labor Day. We took a ride around. He understood the whole thing about traffic, how much the load would be, the idea of the neighborhood, what the speed limit. I learned the speed limit is 30. I thought it was 20. Who knows? So we always go slowly in this neighborhood, but they're not going 30. We saw cars, they're going more than 30. So what we have going on right now, we are in the middle of the data being collected on the pole on that end of that street now at the cul-de-sac, collecting traffic data for a traffic study. And what was interesting about that, in touching base with Sergeant Mance last week by email, a piggyback complaint has come on to that study. Someone on South 19th, I do not know who it is. Several neighbors have confronted drivers regarding parking and speeding. I think you heard a little bit about that. I think it was a little more of a confrontation as I heard it in the different cases. And one thing I'm not going to do is confront anybody in this day and age. I just finished this Sheriff's Office Citizens Academy, and I've learned a lot of things. I did learn a little bit about the weird laws in Kansas regarding open and closed or concealed carry. I don't know who's carrying or not. I also know that last year, with young people and people kind of being impatient, there was a young man killed at the Leavenworth local hotel about a year ago. Somebody got excited, someone died as a result. I hope y'all remember that. It's a young man that was going to graduate. Well, that just shows you can't confront people. So if it comes back that, well, we need to do something with our neighbors about calming and this and that, I don't think they're not in control. They may be responsible and we're not going to lay it on them, but you can't control these people and you can't control the next new client. So, process issues. As I got into this and started getting into it accidentally, I'm the reason that we're here tonight. If anybody wants to thank me or hate me for it. I was just trying to figure out, hey, this is going on, what's the deal with special use and childcare? I visited down here on the 1st, I got a general, well, that doesn't happen that way. That was in the planning office from a clerk. And then I said, well, it's happening, but we have a policy. We let them while it's in application. I said, well, is there something in the application? No. Oh, okay, I'll be back next week. And I was back on the 7th. And I talked with Michelle and asked if there was anything in process. No. Well, it's running. So if it's that time, that prompted some kind of a violation notice. But from the code, accessory uses shall only be permitted upon approval of a special use application by the city commission. This was permitted, but it wasn't permitted exactly by this policy. It was already running. It came in running. So I've looked back at all the cases, City Commission and Planning Commission since January 2020. Looked at all minutes. Seems to be a bias toward daycare and even against neighborhoods where there may be some legitimate substantive reasons for pause. Three current city commissioners on record stating simply, we need daycare. Question, what is the demand for and supply of daycare in Leavenworth? I don't know that there's a record of that or any kind of analysis that's going forward showing us that.
Yeah, there is. But.
And if there is, I'd like to see it because I don't know that it's what we've seen. And where is it? When? Why is it in this neighborhood? Because we didn't have in our neighborhood any demand for daycare. And we'll go into that a little later. Now, the planning director policy, I ran into that. Planning department's running a policy contrary to municipal code. Period. I could see no apparent authorization for this policy. Boilerplate language as far as a process issue and a bias.
And if I can address that real quick, so that's not something that we can address here. The language of what's typed up in our laws and with the city commission and all of that. All we can do right here is hear the pros and the cons for this and hear everybody's concerns, and then we make a recommendation to either approve the special use permit to the city commission or not. And then it goes to the city commission. So this is, and I only preface this because we want to be very targeted with what we do here so that we're not wasting everybody, and it's not a waste of time. So we want to get everything on the record here so that we can make a decision, a recommendation that goes to the city commission. So
I got that, it's a zoning issue.
Let me add one other thing too. A lot of times, what we recommend to the city commissioners, they don't always agree and they will sometimes go against our recommendation.
I understand that.
Okay.
And the thing about the apparent authorization, I don't see that there's any, and we'll get to that. And this is about the process and us being cut out of the process. That is a historic thing here and is written pretty firmly in the code and Kansas law. The open hearing should have been before any of this.
And I'd be happy to talk with you about this, and I think the planning folks would, but that's not something that makes sense for us to discuss here, because there's nothing that we can. I
got that, but it is germane because it was what was upsetting, in addition to the traffic, that was upsetting to these people.
Sure, and I get
that happened that way.
I get it.
The code violations and the traffic.
Yeah.
The third thing you had was legalities.
The boilerplate language. I want to talk about boilerplate language and the biases. What's been going through in these packets, if you look, and I know you've been seeing it, there's language that just doesn't bring in a lot of substance. Like, they're an essential service, this and this, and convenience to the public. Well, relative to us, there's nothing addressing our particular neighborhood. We're incurring all the cost to none of the benefit of this public good. And it might be that that's all a true statement, but then we get to things like the value of property and how it comes in almost every time precisely this way. Staff does not feel that the proposed child care center will cause any substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood. How do they come to feel about property values? Well, what are the methodologies, data, and analysis? Our feelings are, and we have two kinds of feelings. Intrinsic, what we value our property as we live in it and experience it over time. That value has been diminished by this traffic and the way it has run at times. Also, the fact that this happened without us having the proper say at the proper time. That's diminished our value. And then the market price at any given time, now that we have diminished the value of that cul-de-sac and this no outlet leading to it, it is simply less valuable because we've lost some of the traffic minimization quality.
And what I'll tell you about that isn't factored into your property taxes anyway. That's just about that's the county. That has nothing to do with the city.
That has nothing to do with taxes. I said it's about value and how they say they feel our value is not going to be affected or injured.
Well,
Yes.
We have two ideas about value. How we sit there and enjoy our property, that's certainly been damaged.
But honestly, if you're not bringing us evidence saying my value decreased by this much because of this, there's not a lot we can do. And with this matter right here, all we're hearing are the problems that are associated with it, with the benefits. So you've clearly stated several of the problems. I want to try to keep things moving along here. What other problems do you have?
Okay, planning director bias. I'm going to tell you this one because she said I could speak to the commissioners. On 16 October, my wife and I reviewed the application. It was by invitation on that notice. And she was obvious. Talked to Michelle first. We received the packet. I asked one primary question. Did they ever have a special use permit at the prior location? It was the third time that I brought that up, asking that question. Well, a displeased director came out, stood over us, arms folded, and spoke basically in a brusque, condescending, rude manner throughout our little visit. And what we were questioning this whole process, I guess, we really didn't get to say anything. I asked a couple questions. Are you running a process to allow these to open contrary to city code? I heard we need daycare. We're going to help these businesses get started. We're not going to shut down a business. People need to make a living. Do you have a written policy and can we get a copy? No reply. Does Joy Boger coordinate with planning when a license is granted? That's not a requirement. So I re-asked it because I asked, does she coordinate so that you know it? That's not a requirement. Okay? Did this daycare business ever have a special use permit at their prior location? I don't know. We don't have that information. We can't tell you. You will have to do an open records request if you want this, and I did, and I'll tell you in a minute. You must know who has permits. You talked about 17 active permits in the city. Were they on it? And what was come back to the two of us, my wife and I don't know what you're talking about. I never said that. I checked the minutes then when we went home, and the minutes from 3 May 2021 Planning Commission, Ms. Hurley stated she's unaware of a child care center in this particular neighborhood, but there are 17 active special use permits for home-based child care centers in the city. I really don't like being lied to or spoken the way I was that morning in that office. And then she said I could speak with you, so I am tonight. Now, the next thing, the agenda item packet you received, it's inaccurate, incomplete, and misleading. The first thing, it's not complete. It doesn't have any documentation reflecting that this packet, this application had to be compelled by a violation notice. That seems to be germane to the process.
Say that again.
The packet doesn't have in it, from what I saw, that you received, it doesn't have that it, either by documentation or a violation notice itself, that the application had to be compelled by the city. They weren't going to come
Special
in.
care permit information.
The packet is also misleading as it says no concerns or complaints were received by the city regarding the operation of a child care center at their previous home. It doesn't say during any time period for that. I went in on 3 separate times, and the last time being the 16th of October, I said, did they have a special use permit? at the prior location. The only reason this is happening tonight is because I first talked to Michelle and said, hey, I don't know, they're operating, and she popped them the notice. The package is inaccurate. Subject property includes a backyard area approximately 5,800 square feet and enclosed by a 4-foot chain link fence. These things go forward all the time. I don't know how accurate they are, but my question is, how is the fence height determined?
What do you mean?
Well, it said in your packet, and it was stated as a fact, there's a square footage in the backyard, and it's enclosed by a 4-foot chain link fence.
Sure.
That's the requirement, 4 foot. How is that determined?
Have you ever put a fence in the city?
Well,
What's the height of that fence?
Have you put a fence in? You have to pull a permit and you have to make sure that the fence.
There is an existing fence there.
Okay.
But this says, your packet, if you look at it, it says it's enclosed by a 4-foot chain link fence. That sounds like it is right now. So earlier in the summer, when all this just started running around in our head, I went over, because it's all 4-foot fence, I don't know, I went to the neighbors and I held up the little prop. I held up a measuring tape first, and I measured to see what the neighbor's fence is, and it was something, and for how long have you been in the neighborhood? I've been in 27 years. We built on the last house there right now. I've seen all the fences. I saw a fence go in, saw a fence abut it, etc. Well, I measured it, and it was not 4 feet. So we got to this to see this packet, which didn't have a violation idea in it. Says I basically ignored that I'd gone in and had concerns about the previous home. And then it says it's a 4-foot chain link fence. So I went back over this weekend and again stood at the neighbors where the two fences come together. And I took the handy dandy 4-foot ruler. And where do you think that fence is? Well, it's on the end with the big numbers. How was it determined? How does that information come in that it goes as fact to the commission to make any kind of judgment
How
about our
tall
neighborhoods?
was the fence?
Yeah, what was it?
How tall was
was
the
it?
fence?
Well, I guess it's interesting that it was not 48 inches or 4 feet, but it was 42 inches, 3.5 feet, as it has been the entire time since it was put in,
From the ground?
from the ground. Yeah, and there are 3.5-foot fences, 4 foot. I don't care if it's 2 feet, I don't care if it's 5 feet, I don't care if there's a requirement or not, but the requirement has been addressed and factually misstated to you people to make decisions that affect our neighborhoods, and that's gonna lead me to a point in the end.
Okay.
And we'll move on. Legalities.
It is in our notes as a staff recommendation from Julie and Michelle that it needs to be 4 feet high. So we
It
do
needs to be,
have
but
that.
it's stated earlier, it's enclosed by that, right now, that's what it says. And just, in these packets, I see all these 4-foot fence things around town, I'm almost curious to drive around and see what they are now. How do they get checked?
Interesting, yeah.
Do they get checked?
It should be checked when they do the paperwork
They do.
for their child care
It's
center.
like
About
it's-
the coordination.
Sir?
Do they get checked?
Sir, it's like a 2x4. A 2x4 is 1 3/4 inches by,
No, it's not like that. There are 4 feet fences, and there are 3.5, and there are 5 feet, you know that.
yeah.
And you can make the requirement anything, that's not my point.
Okay.
The point is, the wrong thing went in,
Yes.
Yes.
okay?
It's a,
And it just seems like that's more bias. Okay, so on the legalities, a check of the compliance search, it showed when we first got onto all this and figured out childcare that we didn't want to, my wife and I, we saw they had been in since September 2020, and had been running, like 12, at the prior address, 823 Dakota. That's all great. They came over here and started operating 14 August. After closing on a Thursday, they're operating hot on Monday. Well, I was forced to do that open records request. So I asked the city clerk, 823 Dakota, between 1 June 2020, 31 August 2023, any special use permit for that property. Day later, email comes back, and what was the return? Well, one good bit of news was there was no fee due, because I thought I'd have to pay $5. No records found. Now, when there was a quick search by Michelle, I think she saw no records were found either, and I'm not sure why there was this covering up of this fact. But it doesn't seem that there was in fact a special use permit as required by the municipal code for 3 years at the prior location and then dropping in to operate where we were. And that entire time, and then when I'm told by Michelle, when I go in to check, oh, they got it right in. On 11th September, as you got in your packet, it came in, they got it right in as all relative. That was, unless I'm wrong, 1,099 days after beginning operation and being required to have a special use permit in this town. It's a law. State laws, state has roles to play in child care. It's mainly their system. Mainly they take care of the children. I think the children are being taken care of great. I think they're wonderful people with children. That's not the point. That application license states that they attest to being responsible for meeting and complying with all applicable child care licensing laws and regulations at all times. It's under penalty of perjury, and they get reminded by Joey Bogert. That's 4 times through this process to be to this point. KDHE has an orientation. They make a note. You may need to verify about things with the local codes office. And the license, which is in your packet, it says at the bottom, two asterisks. Local codes and ordinance may prescribe other requirements for the legal operation of this facility. They've had that on a license, if I'm not mistaken. I'm having to I kind of have to just guess this, 4 times. And I had to go with Michelle and have a compelling note or letter or whatever, tell them they needed to file this application to become lawful in Leavenworth. And the other thing about that is 17 other active permit holders apparently complied with the law. So all the story that I've told you is coming to a point. The summary, there's been increased in non-compliant traffic. It's changed nature of the neighborhood. That's a zoning issue. That's a special use issue. Disturbing and endangering neighbors and adversely affecting our values in our head, if not at market price at a given point in time, because we lost that traffic minimizing quality, at least to some point. And you might ask me, why do I know any of this? Why do I care and how do I know anything? I'm not a planner. I don't have a planning background. You're right. I have two degrees in agricultural economics, and a PhD in economic geography from the University of Kansas. And I've been in analysis and led analysis, managed analysis, directed it my entire career, 30 years in the government, 20-some years in the Army and Reserve, and 12 years teaching KCK and economics. So I know a little bit, I'm just interested, and I know how to do research. A process contrary to codes being one that favors these daycare businesses over Leavenworth citizens and neighborhoods all the time without regard to specific location characteristics or substantive neighborhood input. If we'd had input prior, we may not be at this point. We might just be, okay, well, this is what we can do to mitigate things and everybody will work something out. And I'm going to get back to the point. You said you were talking to everybody. I came over and talked to y'all an hour one day. I met you that day y'all were moving in. Never once was daycare mentioned to me. Never. And I didn't ask. I knew what was going on. So I tried to be friendly, but never has anybody come around, even after the permit dropped so expeditiously. There was no engendering of goodwill like I would have done, but I'm trying to figure out what is it that they've done. I don't understand. Great with the kids, and oh, by the way, why do I know all these things that we know? Because they've been open about everything. I found out on Facebook. I, of course, find out in research of Kansas documents, Kansas official government sites, all the law that I need to now go into the muni code 86 times in different ways. But I've been out, they're not hiding. They didn't hide before. The city just didn't know they were one of the daycare supply that we weren't counting. So we don't know. We don't know. Do we need it? We had it taken care of, and they didn't even exist. Okay. So the recommendations I have, and they're substantive. I'm here to offer you some help. After saying 1,099 days one more time, it's really kind of bothered me. I really wasn't bothered by anything until I saw, wait a minute, somebody's not following the law, I have to. I don't understand why, and we're gonna get to the bottom of what's happened and try to help people out. I recommend, and I guess I'll speak for the households that I came in with, because I want to be positive. I recommend that the planning commission table the issue and do it to complete and correct the packet, to address the unique qualities of the specific location to make an informed decision, to substantively address value, and how you have a better understanding and sense of our property than we do, to determine the effects on property value with a documented methodology, data, and analysis that stands up to outside scrutiny, and to propose and enact reasonable mitigations to the traffic problem that has been created beyond those that we have done or have the authority to do. So I'll take this and fill my name out, and I'll be done with that.
All right. Thank you. Any other
Yes, Dan.
comments? And we'll keep them short because
Yeah, I'm not gonna take a lot of time.
you're good. State your name and your
I'm Ashley
address.
Baker. I'm actually one of the families who, 3 of my children have actually been taken care of. Oh, I'm in Lansing. I live in Lansing.
What's your address?
813 Cottonwood Drive, Lansing. Sorry, we just moved.
You're good.
So anyway, she's taken care of 3 of my kids back when they were at a dear place and everything else. However, I am a nurse at the VA. I know 2 to 3 of us parents work for the school district. So if you're talking about how it's benefiting the neighborhood in any capacity, I take care of the veterans that live in that neighborhood. They educate the children that live in that neighborhood. It very much affects your neighborhood, just as much as it affects their livelihood. We are all trying to do something here and be positive, and all I'm hearing is that we're tearing each other down over bits and pieces. Whatever, in all reality, we have all contributed to your education, your healthcare, just like you guys have had. Yeah, we
Well,
are.
let's make sure you're addressing.
Right, but we were being scrutinized because we're young parents. Yes, put up a speed limit sign.
Sure.
I think that should be there. It should have been there. I don't know why it's not there. I think that's important. But at the same time, to say that it doesn't benefit the community is completely incorrect, considering the fact that all of us work in this community.
Thank you. Let's make sure somebody has had a chance yet.
What, Gordon Mine, 1101 South Second Street. Wasn't planning on speaking. But, to a counterpoint to a couple of points you made, adverse effects, and especially with property values. As a realtor in the area for 25 years, and to speak to the character of the Jacksons, their house that they left on 823 Dakota sold for well above the listing price, okay? Cul-de-sacs are a premium, and they're usually valued at a higher level. So the idea that there would be so much traffic running through a cul-de-sac that it would actually lower their property value is just, I don't have a crystal ball, I don't think they have a crystal ball, nobody knows what property values are gonna be in 10 years, okay? But they took very well care of their property, and it was valued well above list price. When they moved in, they did over $15,000 worth of upgrades on the inside of the house. And I'm sure next summer, more upgrades are coming to the property. So this idea that property values are gonna suffer, there's gonna be adverse effects because it's a daycare, just doesn't hold water. There is empirical data out there, it's called MLS, and I can show you numbers from 10 years ago to today.
Let me ask you this question. What about you got MLS, which is listings, not sales, number
That's
one.
both.
Number one. Number two, as an appraiser, you have age life depreciation, you have functional obsolescence, and how do you figure in with the rest of the people? Wait a minute, I am.
Okay.
I am. How do you figure in economic obsolescence? That means something outside the property that's causing loss in value to the property. Now, did you praise that property when it was a daycare? Did you have it listed when it was a daycare?
The
Or did you have
previous
it, the previous property, or did you have it listed, how about the houses around that? That's what I'm asking. I think what the gentleman before was saying, I'm worried about the economic obsolescence of the property, which is something outside, that's like, he's trying to say that a daycare center in my neighborhood's gonna cause loss in value to my property, just
It didn't
like,
last.
that's because it wasn't sold, it wasn't.
It was in the
But,
MLS
wait a minute,
paperwork,
wait a minute, wait a
MLS,
minute.
what- that there.
It didn't follow that property. But what about the property next door, if that's sold with the daycare center there? That's what you gotta compare apples to apples, not apples to pears.
I would just ask if we could not debate with any of the
That's
public
right.
speakers.
But
And
that's,
if everybody can have their opportunity to speak without debate from the
but
commission.
that's what I think that
Right.
the gentleman before you said, he's looking at.
I will go back to the crystal ball. I have no idea what Mark is gonna do in a year, let alone 10 years, which I'm sure they're gonna be for a while. I also was a paramedic in this town for 10 years, and there's a lot of people that break the law, speeding wise, and it causes a lot of problems. But it's not just a problem on the main streets, or it's also a problem in cul-de-sacs, okay? Accidents are not specific to any street in the city. They can happen anywhere, okay? And if they want to go to a place where there's not going to be this type of stuff going on, where it's actually legal, it's R1, R9, you can do a permit there. I believe the permit is just so that you know that there's one there. It's not supposed to be an election type process where they voted out of the village because they want to run a daycare. This is their livelihood. This is how they make money. This is how they're going to improve the property and make the values of their properties that surround it better. I don't know if I got into this. Let's see. And if there is, I would ask that if there is one thing, like if there's something in the paperwork that doesn't quite meet the requirements of a special use permit for a daycare, allow them time to upgrade whatever they need to. I'm sure they would be happy to do whatever you would want to do.
All right. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you very much.
Yes.
Do you have a pen?
Oh, I didn't send that.
What's it?
I didn't send that.
Right after her, yeah.
Go ahead.
I live on 19th Street.
Your name?
Joyce Bidley.
Hi, Joyce.
And what's your address?
409 South 19th Street.
Really?
Okay.
Anyway, I don't know these people, they look like very nice people. And I just don't like the traffic. I try to walk my dog down the street and you're scared to death of getting run over. I'm sure the people that use there are nice people, but they're in a hurry to get to their jobs. I used to teach school, I know how you drop a kid off and you're out of there. They just need to be a little more considerate of people that live on the street. I don't think we'd have as many problems as we have right now.
And I'll ask you, is it a problem for a couple of hours in the morning and a couple of hours in the afternoon, or is it like we're a 30-minute window where
Well,
it's really busy
I used
and
to walk from somewhere between 7:30 and 8:30. I don't walk at that time anymore. So, but after that,
it's okay. It's okay.
it's
I-
okay.
I
don't
can't-
walk in the afternoon, well, I sometimes walk in the afternoon, but
Sure.
not as much.
Let me ask you one question. When you walk your dog, is there a sidewalk?
There is a sidewalk.
Because
but
I
it's,
live on,
It's uneven, and stuff like that, so I do walk the sidewalk.
okay, well, I live on a busy street. We used to have people walking their dogs all the time.
Yeah.
That's why I asked. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, I need to sign this.
Yeah, please.
Nice to meet you. I'm sorry to maybe can work this out.
Did you have something, ma'am?
Yeah, I think that we just need some people to
Yes.
Go slower.
Yeah, there were a couple that had to leave.
What?
There was a couple that wanted to speak and they had to leave
Oh,
because of the time.
Hi, my name is Janae Johnson. I live at 110 Western Street in Leavenworth. I'm one of the families of the daycare here, and I just want to speak to the value of them being in the neighborhood. I'm not specifically in the 19th Street Choctaw neighborhood, but I'm in the David Brewer district, which is very, very close to their house. My son attends David Brewer, my daughter goes to the daycare. It's very convenient to all be in one location. When I'm doing drop-off pickup in the mornings, I'm also an educator at David Brewer. So it's very helpful to be in kind of a central location. Jerry and Vanessa are wonderful. I can't say enough great things about them. Sometimes I have to drag my daughter out of there. She just loves them so much. So I think if it comes down to traffic, maybe putting some traffic signs up there. But as for value in the neighborhood, I think it's definitely valued by parents. Oh, I also just wanted to add that I did have to postpone returning to work for 3 months because I could not find daycare. So when I was able to get daycare, it was a godsend.
Let me ask you, when you drop off your child that goes to the daycare, what time is that usually?
About between like 7:30.
Okay, and do you typically pull into the driveway, or are you parking in the cul-de-sac when you drop off typically?
Typically I pull into the driveway.
Okay, and how many other cars are there usually when you come in?
1, maybe 2.
Okay, are there other cars parking in the cul-de-sac? Usually those other 1 or 2 cars that are there, have you seen other cars, other parents parking like in the cul-de-sac and?
They pull into the driveway where there's room, and then there's usually maybe that one other car there, and so they try to pull along the curb.
Okay.
So that they're not blocking anybody trying to leave, come in.
But it's difficult to come in and out when there's, more than 3 or 4 cars there, it becomes kind of Tetris.
I've never
getting in and out?
experienced that, so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
okay.
I think. Well, I have a question for the planning staff.
My name is Becky Ritchie. I live on Choctaw Street, 1817. We've lived there for 9 years now, and this is the first time I've met the Jacksons, and I hope that this won't bring any difficulty between us. I have nothing against these people personally. I have nothing against the people who have kids and are using the Jacksons daycare. My issue is the traffic. And it's the speeding that really is a major issue. And if people that are racing down that street and racing around there, dropping their kids off, picking their kids up, that is a huge concern, given, that we're a dead-end street, that it's a small community, it's a small T-junction. And might I just point out, that is a small cul-de-sac. That's not like a big cul-de-sac. It's a tiny cul-de-sac. One other thing, I know it doesn't concern this commission, but I just have to say, and I know I have to address you all, I'm a little alarmed that people are speeding, like really speeding, and they've got kids in the car. One gentleman pointed out that all streets, all areas, can have accidents. Well, in the 9 years that I've lived there, we haven't had any accidents. On 19th Street on Choctaw, there hasn't been one accident, I have to say. And I would hate to see that happen.
And there hasn't been one since, is that?
Right, in 9 years. My husband and I relocated here to this part of the country, actually, 9 years ago, almost, be 9 years ago next month. And there have been no accidents.
We heard from another gentleman that there was a kid that was almost killed.
When was that?
Did I make that up?
No, he said almost hit.
He almost hit.
Almost hit and
So
Almost
Okay.
hit, yeah.
he
Got
did in fact say and killed, but almost hit would be the proper thing,
Okay.
because he was not hit, therefore he was not almost killed.
Yeah,
Right,
all right, I
But-
went further with that, okay.
Yeah,
That's
no,
what he
that's
said.
understandable, yeah. But that's my main
Sure.
issue here.
Thank you.
And I would just like to have the law complied with. That's my issue as a person, lives right there on Choctaw. And I just want to clarify, I live at the other end of Choctaw as
Right.
well. And so, they're not speeding by my house, but I mean, it's a very short stretch there of Choctaw, and it is a concern, living in
Sure.
the neighborhood, so.
And I'll ask you, like I've asked others, do you see it over a prolonged period of time, or have you been able to kind of guess when those hot spots are going to be? Is it predictable in any way, or is it just like a constant fear of cars driving too fast?
It's not constant, no.
Okay.
It's at the times, when they're dropping off, and then they come to pick up their children,
Is that like a 2-hour window? What kind of window in your head when you make plans? Because I live in an area, and I've been on that side of the microphone before talking
Sure.
about there's only one way in and one way out and all of that. So I understand what you're talking about. I'm just trying to get an idea of how big is that window for you, especially being on that other side of Choctaw? What is that window for you?
It's probably just maybe, I don't know, I want to say an hour and a half or so, hour and a half.
For pickup and
As much
drop
as-
off?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah. I mean,
Once in the morning
maybe
and-
maybe
yeah.
as much as 2 hours,
Okay.
So, but I am at the other end of Choctaw.
Right.
But since I am here to support my neighbors,
Sure.
and I really don't want, trouble for you all.
Yeah.
It's just, and I don't hate kids, It's just, I do, think people should comply with the law, and especially people who are driving. I came down that street one time a while back, and I think I was going a little fast. I don't know how fast it was. And a couple neighbors were out, and boy, they turned their heads and they looked at me, and I went, what am I doing? I think I was going too fast, seriously.
Sure.
True story, and I thought, nah, I better not, I better watch it. So I have ever since then. And I don't know if they could lower the speed limit or even put some type of traffic calming in there. I hate to see that, but
Sure.
if it's gonna be an issue, then we need to do something about, to making sure that
Sure.
it's safe for the passengers, the precious little passengers in the vehicles, and for the people, those of us who live there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yep. You had stood up, sir, earlier. Do you still have something to say, or in the blue shirt? Or yep. Okay.
Good evening. My name's Clayton Darby. I live at 1901 Choctaw. I'm in that corner house on that T on the southwest side.
Okay.
Where they're at. So I get firsthand view of a lot of what goes on at that T because it crosses through my front yard a lot of times,
Sure.
I've put some measures in place to try to prevent that, but, I've been there for 7 years now, going on a little, almost 8, and I have nothing, I've never met the Jacksons. It's the first time I've seen them tonight. The only way I knew who they were is a few of the people that looked them up. I found them on Facebook as well. So I knew a daycare was going in when a truckload of children's equipment backed up when they were moving in, which, hey, I'm not here to decide what your job is or what your livelihood is, but there has been a change in our traffic. And yes, there are hot spots, as you said, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock, pickup drop-off time, that's definitely, and I guess my main concern also is, our road doesn't get plowed in the winter, so we're a next day, because we're not an emergency route by any means, so which, no disrespect to the City of Leavenworth street crew, I work for the City of Lansing street crew, so I understand how it works, but, that is not something that's even been assessed yet, and not saying that their parents or whoever can't drive that, but does that become an issue? Our hill gets we have a nice little, small hill that comes up and down, it gets slick in the wintertime, and we do have kids that walk the bus stop and this and that, but,
Oh, is that, that's important, is there a bus stop here?
at High and 19.
So further down, okay.
Yep, right on the corner, straight down. Luckily, like the neighbors going, we do have sidewalks.
Got it, yeah.
Not the greatest, but we're not here to talk about that. But, again, I'm not here to speak on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Jackson. I support whatever they want to do, but we do have a mutual problem as a small knit, I'll call it a street family, where we have seen an uptick in things that we haven't seen at least in the 7 years since I've been there. And I don't know what we can do, but I do think it needs to be addressed. When I first moved in, there wasn't even a children's playing sign up anywhere up the street. I actually had to bring one from work and put one up myself because the city told me they wouldn't put one up. So, but now that that's there, mine is not up to date by any means on the stop sign, but I do believe somewhere there's a mutual benefit where we can all make this work. But again, it's, right now it's new and it's fresh, so.
Sure.
But again, I'm not here to put them down or, make decisions, but it has become a problem in the neighborhood, not life-threatening to a certain extent, but we do have children that do play out there, and the cul-de-sac does get clogged up at those times, but again, you don't want to put so many people on a driveway.
Right.
But we do have kids that go out in the street and play basketball, we do have kids that ride bikes, we do have kids that skate, typical, but this is a new thing for us that we're trying to adjust to, but again, they said they talked to everybody, I've never met them. I had no clue until I saw the truckload of equipment, but, I'm here on behalf of the neighborhood to support, but I appreciate you guys' time tonight.
You alluded, or maybe I put it on there, that maybe there was some damage or something occurring to your property that you're trying to.
So on that southwest corner, I am the turn.
Okay.
So if I don't park my truck in the front and move it up close to the corner, I get a lot of those people that go flying out, and it is, no, not every single car that comes from their daycare is going 20 miles, 30 miles, 40 miles an hour around that corner.
Yeah.
But we have had a few.
Okay.
And they do fly through there.
And
I
cut
see
across
most in
your
the
yard?
afternoon, so I get home about 3:45 from work. I've had, coming home, trying to get in on my bike, I had a lady that came flying out past me from picking up her child. It is what it is, but it's something that's becoming a problem, and
Noted.
so.
Noted.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
I appreciate you guys, thanks.
Yep, appreciate your comments.
Hi, my name is Erica Johnson and I live at 1309 Ottawa Street. I'm a family of this daycare, so my son has gone there since he's been 2 months old. He is now almost 3. I'm also currently pregnant and have a spot for my next son. So this daycare is very, very important to me. And my family, the Jacksons, are amazing caretakers and everything they have done. I agree also with the people speed. But that's, people speed everywhere, and I agree if we can put more signage up there, that would be wonderful. But that does not affect the Jacksons, in my opinion. Like, that does not affect their business and how other people make their choices in speeding or whatever it might be. I am sorry to hear that there might be damage to people's property of people speeding. I will say I am not one of those people that are, jumping curbs and things like that, but I hear that that could be a concern. I will say with parking, we don't typically have an issue. If need be, we will park behind each other in the driveway, which might mean hey, can you hold on a minute so I can get my kid and go. We're, like they have all said, very close, and we will communicate with each other rather than blocking other people. There has been rare times where we have had to go a little bit in front of somebody's driveway, We try to be super quick and move out of the way, especially if we see people out there. I know people have said that they walk their dogs and things. I've seen them walk in the streets even though there are sidewalks. Like just as of today, I saw somebody in the street with their dog walking when the sidewalks were clear. I mean, it was a beautiful day. I don't blame them for getting outside, but like, if you're gonna say you're gonna be on the sidewalk, use the sidewalks. Kids out playing during pickup time, that's the only time I have seen it, and that has been 3 times since the day they've opened that I have seen kids out there. We've even went back for the evening for a party that we had together, and that was a total of 3 extra vehicles that were there. 2 of those were in the driveway, and I did park on the in the cul-de-sac that day, and I made sure I was not in the grass or anything up on the curbs. So it's, again, we are all very cognizant of those things.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
thank you so much. All right, I think that's,
Okay, does,
So I'd close the public hearing then,
yeah,
or is there someone?
wait a minute. We have one
Pop
more,
like
we have
this.
one more, and then we'll close it.
My name is Bonnie Ingram. I live at 1908 Choctaw. I'm the co-owner of that property. My husband was the at-length speaker, and I will try to be brief. The traffic has been a big problem. And the person that just spoke had her truck parked today at the little section I'll show you on the map. This little green spot here is about 7 feet. That's about 7 feet, and that's a real popular place for people to come in and park. And I say park, but they're actually leaving their cars running, and they will be in there 5 to 15 minutes, sometimes much longer. And it has been much more chaotic than you've been led to believe, and it has continued to be chaotic over the past 3 months. And I guess I'm angry about all of this. There's a lot of things involved with why I'm angry. Then business just popped in when we didn't have notification that this was going to happen. And though traffic is still the #1 concern that I have, but this special use permit process has been turned on its head. The code, like my husband said, requires that this happen before now. We should not be in here discussing there's a traffic issue or this is happening. We should be ahead of that happening. That everything says that that's how it's supposed to work. What has basically happened is that planning has decided to issue a de facto zoning change by allowing people to run contrary to code. And I know you said that you're here to just look at the situation and try to make a decision, but we feel like the residents of this community, this micro neighborhood, were just cut out of this whole process. And when we went to talk about this and heard this stuff about we need daycare and we're not going to shut a running business, we shouldn't have even been talking about a running business that didn't have a special use permit at this time and hadn't had 1,099 days. That's something I've heard at my house a lot lately. So the state of Kansas takes care of the licensing, and I'm sure that these children are well looked after. And it's great for the parents who have their children there. But those same parents are the ones that are driving recklessly on our streets and don't seem to have any regard for our children. And the idea that it's mostly retirees in this neighborhood, retirees have older knees, and you do not walk on concrete without risking damage. A lot of our neighbors that live in this neighborhood do walk on the streets because it has been historically safe to do so. And there's only one sidewalk on 19th Street, and it is not a good sidewalk to try to walk on. So being in the street walking is not against the law, and it should be safe and has historically been safe in this neighborhood. And I think the whole idea of this zoning is to be sure that there's not a negative effect on the neighborhood. And I know that can be interpreted in many ways. But this negative effect for us has been that these cars coming into our neighborhood has made it less safe for us. And you can debate whether it's this many cars, that many cars at full capacity, and I understand it's not that. It could be 48 passes up and down 19th Street. That is a lot of traffic, especially if you have even just a few driving like crazy people because they're late for work or late to pick up their kid. And we've observed this over 3 months. So you have a decision to make about this permit and whether you think it's a good idea at this point with everything you've heard. And we've done what we can to try to make it clear how we feel about it. There were some people that left before they had a chance to speak, and a lot of people that couldn't be here tonight, including ones with KU basketball tickets, who have been in the realty insurance business for 70 years and are not happy about this. But I understand there's a 2-week period after this meeting to protest whatever decision is made, and there will be a lot of stuff that comes in. So just think about it, and like the people have said, we don't have anything against the Jacksons, but you cannot separate the traffic from that business. They are only in there because a business is operating. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll close that portion of the meeting from the public hearing.
Yep, close the public hearing.
For the public hearing, yes, thank you. I need a motion.
There's probably some discussion, yeah, so.
Questions for the staff.
Yeah, so just to address a few things, in terms of procedures, as with any code violation that our staff becomes aware of, whether it's through code enforcement activities, there's a property maintenance violation, or there's a use issue, something operating where it shouldn't be, our practice, we do give property owners a chance to remedy the violation. Again, whether that's a property maintenance violation, they may need to trim their trees, mow their grass, or a use issue. We notify the property owners once we become aware of the violation, give a certain time frame in which remediation steps need to be taken. As long as those steps are taken within that time, we continue to work with those property owners. So it has happened before, and I'll tell you, there are likely home daycares operating in town that we're not aware of. We work pretty closely with the county office that does the licensing for the state, and we certainly ask that they direct their daycare operators to come to the city because we do have the special use permit requirement. That doesn't always happen. They usually direct folks to us, but genuinely, there are a number of daycare operators who don't know that there's an additional requirement on top of the state requirements. So they may be operating legally with their state license and not know that they need to get a special use permit from the city if they were not told. And unless we become aware of that, either by our code enforcement officers seeing it or a neighbor notifying us, we're just not gonna know. And typically what has happened when we have been informed by someone is that we'll go out to take a look and can't even tell that there's a daycare operating just by visibly inspecting. We'll always send a letter. Hey, this has been reported. We need you to contact us to talk about next steps. That's what happened in this case. We were notified by the neighbors that this was operating. We sent the letter. The owners contacted us immediately as soon as they received the letter, got in the process. Again, we have had that happen before. I can't remember a specific daycare instance, but with other home-based occupations that require a special use permit that we've become aware of, and we send that letter, hey, you need to get in the process, get this special use permit. And no, it's not the policy of the city to shut down someone's business, their livelihood, as long as they are taking steps to remedy a situation. If something were to come in and go through the process and ultimately be denied by the city commission, absolutely at that point, there would be enforcement actions taken, same as there would if someone did not take the steps to come in and get that process started. So that's just process-wise. In terms of the owner's previous location, obviously the city was unaware that one had been operating there, and they had apparently never been informed by the county or the state that they needed to contact us to get a special use permit. And so again, if we're never made aware of it, there's no way for us to know. So I do think that speaks to neighbors at their previous location never had a complaint, never contacted the city with any concerns that they had, so we were not aware. In terms of requests of individuals requesting information about a property that is not theirs and that doesn't have a public application on it currently, that absolutely is an open records request, item, that's state statute. Property owners can't just get private information about another property that they do not own, and so that's why the gentleman who spoke earlier was directed to our city clerk's office to make the open records request about a separate property. It sounds like most of the concerns I heard are with traffic. I had not heard anything from our police department, but it sounds like they've been in contact with PD, and from what some of the speakers were saying, it sounds like they may have a speed trailer or something out there.
Which was my question.
Yeah.
And why, so that must have been before the staff put this packet together.
Yeah, and so we were never notified by PD that they had anything out there.
Is there an official traffic study out there?
And I'll have to check, honestly, this is the first I've heard about it.
Okay.
And so I believe it's the Ingrams had come in to speak with us. We've received no other communication, calls, letters, emails, anything else from any other residents. So before tonight, we're unaware of any concerns other than what the Ingrams had expressed to us. So if we had heard that any of this, we would have checked with PD. We hadn't heard any of these concerns. So it sounds like they've been in touch with PD. Anything about additional signage or traffic calming, those are strictly decisions for police department and public works. So all signage has to go through the police department, and they are very specific in their requirements as to what signage can be placed where and under what conditions. That's not for the planning department or this body to decide. And then in terms of any physical traffic calming, like a speed table or something like that, that would be a public works decision. I'm not a traffic engineer, but I can tell you it's highly unlikely that something would be put in a dead-end cul-de-sac situation like this. So I think those were the main things I heard. Obviously, if there's any questions that you guys have, I'll do my best to answer them.
Can you tell me if it just fell out of my head. I had a question.
I do feel like quality of life should be added to what their main concerns were. That's what I was hearing. Their quality of life, they felt like was diminished. But I did also have a question about the traffic study, like when does it end? But you guys weren't even aware that it was going on.
I kind of feel like there needs to be more information found out about that and what's going on.
With the traffic study?
Yeah, to find out more. I also think that the home value, that's there's so many interpretations of how that could be. I heard that was a concern as well.
Yeah, and I can tell you, just research has shown, and this isn't just here, I mean, this is nationwide, that home daycare businesses do not overall decrease the value of property in neighborhoods. I mean, that's well established, research-based information that's out there. So that's, typical. We've had no indication that property values have declined in other neighborhoods where there are home daycares or other home occupations. So that's...
Yeah. So process of elimination here, it sounds like, they weren't aware of maybe some codes. They're aware of it. They're working on that. The home value, we have some statistics showing that possibly home values aren't affected. Quality of life, that's a big one. And then you got the traffic. And maybe this needs to be tabled to find out if it goes to Public Works on the signage and the traffic report. I mean...
But also, what should have happened? I mean, it can't now. That's over and done with. Because I've been approached at my own house by letter and by people saying, we want to buy this house on the corner and we're going to make it into a daycare. Is that okay? And we went through this exact process. And everyone in our neighborhood, which is also a micro neighborhood, came and said their piece, and there's no daycare there.
So there's no state or city requirement that a property owner approach neighbors about their plans to open a daycare. The statutory requirement is that once that application is made, that the city provide notification to property owners within 200 feet, which was done. But no, there is no city or state requirement that a daycare operator would preemptively approach neighbors for that purpose.
Can I ask it this way? If they would have come here at the beginning before starting this, would anything have changed?
In terms of the process?
Right.
No. They would have been told they needed to apply for the special use permit, they would have made application, we would have provided notice to owners within 200 feet, it would have come here
Public
before this
hearing.
board, it would be the same process.
Well, I gotta tell you, I think his name was Mr. Ingram. I do agree with him. I agree that some of the language wasn't exact and maybe even slightly misleading. So I do agree that it should be tabled, and I would feel so bad about that because all of these people would have to come back, but then they also said there were other people that wanted to speak but couldn't because of a KU basketball game, but
Rock chalk.
There's some unfinished business here, I
Yeah,
feel
well,
like.
and
But does that, I wonder, the position, now that it's brought up, that they're operating without a special use permit, and if we table this until the next one, which is maybe not December, right?
First week of
So
December.
that means
Number
that essentially we're forcing them to operate without a special use permit. It's already been brought up that that's somehow a difficulty that the city hasn't either realized or fully researched or what. I don't know what we
It's in
do.
the process, so it wouldn't affect them.
Yeah,
right?
so again, it's the city's process that if a property owner, for whatever the violation is taking steps to remediate that violation, that we're not going to shut down their business, we're not going to take them to court, whatever that process may be, so,
But has
yes.
that been cleared through general counsel or whatever, that is our actual
Yeah, yes,
position?
that's,
that's ours.
Okay, then
Yeah,
that's all
and
I need.
so-
It's not gonna hurt their livelihood if we table it for 1 month.
right.
Okay.
And that gives them time to correct.
Well, and so if it's the decision of the planning commission that you want to table it to the December meeting, I would just ask for very specific information that you want to be provided at that December meeting.
I'll make a motion. I motion to table until next hearing, and I would like to hear more about the traffic study.
Okay.
And who established it, what are the parameters, what kind of data are we collecting, if they could come
Police
here.
department.
And then, a representative that
Okay.
can come and speak to that, and somebody from Works that would be able to let us know about any type of signage or anything else that could be possible. We know that we can't write that in, and that's not part of this, all of that, but I think it would be beneficial for the people to hear what is possible, what's reasonably possible, and what's not. We also have to remember that we have a very reduced city budget, and that will impact anything on what it gets done and when it gets done. But I want to make sure that they're able to continue to operate as we continue through that. That would be my conditions.
Motion?
So
Is that your-
a motion, I'm sorry, did you write all that down? Motion to table, to hear from Public Works and the police
And PD.
department related to data.
I'll second that.
Okay, is there anything else that you would want
Any other-
provided at the
Police
next?
department, traffic study, is what I wrote down, public works, I don't see anything else,
I plan to go out there, in the mornings and the afternoons a couple of times and just kind of see what I see, if that's okay with the neighborhood. You'll see a black Silverado just parked out there. It's me, don't call it.
Don't block the driveway.
don't be wearing suspicious hats.
If someone even is parked in the cul-de-sac, is there then room to turn around?
Yeah.
However, the fence was brought up, so yes,
I think the fence was.
someone of authority measure the fence.
I'll tell you, I mean, 4 feet is a standard fence height,
4 and 6, that's what.
yeah, and so when a fence application is made by a fence contractor, they go out and install the fence, and we don't go onto private property to measure a fence after it's been installed. So it's highly likely that fences are gonna be a few inches off when they're installed, just due to changes in grade, I mean,
Soil
ground is
erosion?
not
Yeah.
flat, so.
What's the purpose of the zoning regulation for us to have a special use permit? So I know that like in my neighborhood, it was
Wait a
a
minute,
difference between
before we
zoning.
go on that, we have a motion
Oh,
Oh,
on
yeah.
the floor and a
Let's clear that
second,
out.
so let's clear that out first. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Okay, Dale. Brian.
Now I forgot. Oh, yeah, so.
Purpose of,
Yeah, the purpose for the special use, cause I know like if we're talking about a neighborhood that's all residential R1 or whatever, and then we're trying to put a an apartment complex in there, that changes the characteristic of the neighborhood and all of that. A special use permit, does that change the characteristic of the neighborhood? I know those are the legal standards, the golden questions that we always have to answer
Yeah.
with these. Does a special use permit change the characteristics of the neighborhood?
I think that's the purpose of a special use permit, is they could.
Okay.
So with any zoning district and any use, there's gonna be uses that are permitted by right in a zoning district, whether it's single family or commercial or office or whatever. And there's gonna be a number of uses that are permitted with issuance of a special use permit.
Wait.
And so those are gonna be uses that, could be compatible in a certain zoning district, depending on the specific use or operation, or may not be. So those are just uses that, just warrant a little bit of extra consideration. So with a single-family zoning district, that's the recognition that, yes, a home-based occupation is a business, whether it's a daycare or, we allow small engine repair as a home-based occupation that requires a special use permit. So yes, there are uses that may be appropriate for certain locations and they may not be. And so that's why they require a special use permit, just to get that extra level of review by staff, the planning commission, and the city commission, instead of just allowing it by right.
And sir, may we keep this, or did you need it back?
Absolutely. That's
Okay.
really
Thank you.
good
Thank you.
Thank
Is there a way for us to get copies in email of that?
Yep, we can scan that and send that out to
Okay,
everybody,
that'd
since
be
there's
great.
only one
Thanks.
copy.
All right, well, hopefully,
So
We'll be looking
hopefully
at all sides.
we can work things out and give time to check what things we need to have done.
do we have more business on the, don't we?
Yeah, we have 3 more items.
We have 2 more items.
Yes.
Now I'm over here reading
Okay,
that.
I want to thank everybody that came for this situation and
Yep.
appreciate all your input and thank you very much. And we'll see if we can come to a
Understanding. yeah.
understanding.
I would just say folks don't have to feel like they need to stay for the rest of the meeting.
Yeah.
Or you can, it's fun.
Yeah, you're welcome to, just don't feel like you can't walk out.
Okay.
So,
All right, where are we at?
Which we're going to.
Where are we at?
All right.
we're on.
Uh-oh. Michelle's gonna.
Okay, I wouldn't, Michelle, you give it to me.
Man, she's done this before.
Because Brian would jump all over me if I did.
I will.
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Okay. The next item is the request of a special use permit for the city of, the applicant is the city of Leavenworth. Did you want it, who's handling this between?
Yep, so that's gonna be me, so.
That's gonna be you, okay.
Yep, so this is 2023-29 SUP. It's a request to allow a government facility in the RMF zoning district, which is residential multifamily. This is, it's at 2805 2nd Avenue. It's the site of Fire Station 3. Fire Station 3 has been located here since the 1960s. City zoning didn't get put in place until the late 60s either, so it's most likely that this was just in place prior to there being any sort of zoning regulations. So our current zoning regulations do require that a government facility, which a fire station qualifies as, has a special use permit to operate in the RMF zoning district. It is in the city's capital improvement plan to replace Fire Station 3 next year. That's currently under design and is in process. And so just as part of that, since there was never a special use permit on this property, again, since it's been a fire station since before we had zoning regulations, we just needed to get that special use permit applied for and approved to continue the operation of this property. It's currently considered legal non-conforming or existing non-conforming since it's operating as is and requirements have changed. Since it's going to be demolished and rebuilt, it's going to be improved by over 50% of its appraised value. So that is what's triggering the need for the special use permit. So any existing non-conforming use can continue operating. Once you start to change it is when you need to come into conformance, hence the need for the special use permit. So the Development Review Committee did look at the site plan and building elevations last month. That's not part of your review, but just to kind of provide them for informational purposes. The site plan is largely the same as it is now. A few modifications. They're wanting to add a second driveway just as for some access improvements for the fire station for trucks coming in and out. All of those issues, nothing major with it, but any of that's going to be taken care of at the time of building permit. And then just to kind of show you what it's proposed to look like. The existing facility, again, has been there since the 60s and is in a pretty darn even upgrade, and so that's been planned in the CIP for quite some time. So just to go through the findings, in order to review the special use permit, the first is that the proposed special use complies with all applicable provisions of the ordinance. Staff believes that the application complies with all provisions of the City of Leavenworth development regulations. 2, that the proposed special use at the specified location will contribute to and promote the economic development, welfare, or convenience of the public. Again, this property has functioned as a fire station since the 1960s, providing a vital service to the welfare of the public. Number 3 is that the special use will not cause substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood in which it is located. Staff does not believe that any substantial injury will come to the value of other property in the neighborhood, again, as there's no change in the actual use of the property. And number 4, that the location and size of the special use, the nature and intensity of the operation involved in or conducted in connection with it, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it are such that the special use will not dominate the immediate neighborhood, so as to prevent development and use of neighboring property in accordance with the applicable zoning district regulations. And again, the proposed new fire station facility will be largely similar in size, scale, and placement to the existing facility and will not cause any substantial injury to the surrounding neighborhood. Notification was sent to property owners within 200 feet of the subject property as required by statute. Staff has received no comments or inquiries regarding that. And so staff would recommend approval of the special use permit request based on the findings included herein. And I do believe the architect for the project is here if you had any questions related to the design of the site.
Thank you.
So,
Can we hear from the architect, like,
Yep, if you want to hear from him.
sure, we'd like to know how they're gonna expand it.
I'm not here as
You're not the architect?
I am not here as a commissioner.
Oh, but I think he's behind you.
As a what?
Will the fire department be shut down for a period of time while it's being rebuilt?
Yes, so that station will have to be shut down while they are constructing it, and they can probably speak to how long that's gonna be and those logistics. So I don't know, if you want to go first or if you want.
You're expanding it quite a bit, aren't you?
I guess we have to say our name
Yeah.
first and.
Yeah, if you guys could just, whoever wants to talk, just indicate your name for the record and then.
Jody Cos Construction. We are tearing down the new one. That fire station house is going to relocate during construction. and we think it'll probably be about a year from when we start to when we finish.
Are they just gonna be operating out of fire station 1 or 2? Yeah.
That's what the chief said.
Can we put into the motion that we have to have a picture of Ed Hingela coming down the fire pole one last time?
Well, it is 2 stories,
They can-
so
they can have
I think
a
they're gonna put a fire
They
pole
don't
in
have
this
a
one.
They will, not this.
Yeah,
they don't
in the
have
new
one.
one.
They don't have one now.
They're not, okay, they're not
You
gonna
got
have a fire
saved,
pole.
Ed.
We can Photoshop something.
I was gonna put it in there. I was gonna put it in the motion.
Well,
Not in number one either.
I have no questions.
the only question I had is the floodplain will not be a problem with,
No.
the property?
No.
Okay. I know
That
it's
has all
in
been taken
100-year
into account.
floodplain. Okay.
Is there-
But the building itself will not be in the floodplain?
Correct.
It's correct?
No, and that's,
Basically, but part of the parking area could be in,
the right of way here is super huge, and most of the
Understand.
floodplain falls within the right of way. And so, no,
has the floodplain changed since we've had the renovation of that? Ms. Cost, can you answer that? Or do you know?
The answer to that is the city hasn't went back yet to.
FEMA to get new
FEMA
floodplain
to
maps?
have it.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I like the design.
I do too.
I think it'll be very sharp, thank you for
This is
that.
really nice. What's the address that this station is
Second-
going to be
second
operating
limit.
out of when it gets torn down?
The first and second ones.
while it's relocated,
So
they'd be,
20th Street,
Oh, the actual
20th
street.
Street and.
and then Fire
Shawnee.
Station 2 is on
Shawnee.
Shawnee,
That's
Shawnee and
Shawnee.
10, yeah. So, yeah, and the fire department is taking care of the logistics of how they'll be handling calls and
I was
service.
just
Yeah.
asking because of the proximity of how many calls are you gonna have to 4th Street and Woodland Village, I think it's called.
Yeah, and I'm not,
Now, and then everybody's so
Yeah.
far away. I wasn't opposing
Yeah.
it, I was just asking a question of where is the fire department going to come from for those calls, because they have a lot of calls there.
yeah, so again, yeah, Fire Station 1 and 2.
I don't have any further questions, I actually would like to move with a motion. Motion based on the findings as stated and conditions as presented to.
You might, just open public
Oh,
hearing.
Yeah, open
yeah, sorry.
public hearing
Yes, yeah.
first, yes.
Anybody have any?
Thanks for the architect.
Yeah,
and
thank
the-
you.
And the construction people. Anybody like to get up and speak pro or con?
Nope.
Okay.
All right, you ready for my motion?
Now we'll close the public.
You ready for me?
We're ready for you now. There you go. You and I are.
You really
working
built
together.
this up. You gotta come through now.
I'm just gonna keep it simple. So a motion
Okay.
based on the findings as stated and conditions as presented to recommend approval of the city commission with the included conditions that were provided.
I'll second.
I have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
And then just agenda-wise, we're gonna move item number 3 down to the bottom, since that's just, a text amendment issue, and since there's applicants here with the next item, we'll go ahead and move them up so we can keep them going along. So we will do, 2023-31 SUP at 2103 Metropolitan next, and Bethany's gonna handle that.
So this is a request for a special use permit to allow the operation of an assisted living facility at 2103 Metro. The applicant, Robin Smith of Peace at Heart Senior Living LLC, is requesting a special use permit to allow the assisted living facility in an existing building on the property. It's zoned R19, medium density, single family. The adopted development regulations define assisted living facility as facilities which provide residents with supervision or assistance with activities of daily living coordination of services by outside healthcare providers, and monitoring of resident activities to help ensure their health, safety, and well-being. Assisted living facilities are allowed in R19 with the issuance of a special use permit. Peace at Heart Home Care Services is currently a licensed home health agency through the state of Kansas and is looking to expand service operations. The assisted living facility will have up to 6 residents and 1 to 2 staff on the premises at one time. The state of Kansas does not require registration of assisted living facilities. Or does require, I'm sorry. That didn't make sense.
That's all right, you're good. You're doing better than we've been doing, so that's.
The commission may issue special use permits whenever it finds that, 1, the proposed special use complies with all applicable provisions of this ordinance. Staff believes that this application complies with all provisions. 2, the proposed special use at the location will contribute to and promote the economic development, welfare, or convenience of the public. There is a current need within the community for assisted living facility uses. The proposed facility will provide primarily seniors cooking, cleaning, ADLs, and activities to its residents. It will help to improve the overall well-being of the residents. 3, that the special use will not cause substantial injury to the value of other property in the neighborhood which it is located. Staff does not feel that the proposed use will cause any substantial injury to the value. The location and size of the special use, the nature and intensity of the operation involved in or conducted in connection with it, and the location of the site with respect to streets giving access to it are such that the special use will not dominate the immediate neighborhood so as to prevent development and use of neighboring property. No new structures or building modifications are proposed as part of this special use permit, and the property will continue to look and function as it currently does. Since the property owners within 200 feet have been notified, we have not heard from any property owners. Staff recommends approval of the special use permit based on the analysis and findings included herein, subject to the following conditions: that they obtain an active registration of an assisted living facility with the state of Kansas.
What level assisted living facility is this? I didn't see that in here. When they only have 1 to 2 staff members, I wondered what. Is it 24 hours assisted
That's our understanding.
for two people?
For
up to 6.
6 residents.
Yes,
6
up to 6
residents, but
residents.
only 2 people for 24 hours. That's why I asked what level of assisted.
I'm not sure exactly what classification the state uses, but yes, the property owner would need to get whatever required licensing from the state in order to operate at the level that they are proposing.
Moving to, yes.
Yeah.
I just have a couple questions for the individuals, because it says the applicant Robin Smith of Pierce Hart LLC, but then the owner's name is different on the special permit, so I'm just, is it a franchise or?
Yep, so I'll let them, the owners of the business come up, but they are not going to own the building. They're leasing the building, and so the owners of the property are the ones required to apply for a special use permit. And then the operator of the business would be someone different than the owner of the building.
Okay.
And so then
Who are the operators?
who's responsible for compliance then? Would it be
So it'd be the owner of the property,
and not the owner of not the operator?
So it'd be
Of the
the owner of the
LLC.
property is gonna be on the hook for ensuring compliance. So as with any, so kind of going back to the code violation thing.
Right.
Even if you are renting a property, the owner of that property is responsible for making sure that that property stays in compliance with all of our regulations. So whatever lease agreement they have worked out, yes, most likely the operator of the business is gonna have to take care of that. But that's between those two private parties. For the city's purposes, in terms of ensuring compliance with laws, regulations, it's the owner of the property.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
gone through a lot of this in the last year with my mom, and there is, I mean, I'm trying to look at the pictures here. Usually when you have up to 6 people in a facility, 24 hours, you do have visitors. So is there adequate parking for all of that?
So I'll let the applicants come up to talk a little bit about it, but there is.
I mean, it looks like it in the picture, but.
Yeah, it's a very deep driveway, and if you could come up to the.
Cause you are gonna
podium.
have like 2
Yeah.
staff members there, their cars, and then, you know,
Is there-
visiting.
I also had a question just about the property. When I was looking it up, there was actually apartment A listed. Is there an apartment that is separate, that is something altogether different? Is it maybe
Front
the thing in
building.
the back, or is that the little part in the front?
So there had previously been,
Mother-in-law quarters.
a previous owner had built that out as an accessory dwelling unit. That never really went forward, but yeah, so it's already built out like that.
Is it
That's why.
in compliance? Is that what you were saying?
Oh,
Yeah.
Is that as
I
an
was
addition?
gonna ask about the
Yeah, so it
I
meets
was
all
simply
building
asking if
codes.
it was
In
an
order to
apartment.
operate it as an accessory dwelling unit, it would need a special use permit, but it never got to that point. I think they were sort of working towards that and it just never got there. And I'll let the applicant talk about it a little bit more, but it's staff's understanding that they're not planning on having their residents living in that
That portion.
unit out back. So the house is up front and then there's, the detached building out back. And she can talk a little bit more about their plans, but it's our understanding that they will not be having residents in there living.
And the back building,
Yes.
the long building is not gonna be where the residents are gonna be.
Yeah, I'll let,
Go ahead.
talk.
Yeah, that'd be
And
great.
please
Yeah.
state your
Set us
name.
straight.
Yeah.
Hi, I'm Robin Smith, and I'm the owner of Peace at Heart Home Care Services and Peace at Heart Senior Living. And the dwelling that you are here tonight, we are taking our steps to get our licensure. We've already had our inspections, which has passed. We are just waiting on the licensing process at this time. The front of the home, we now know since our inspection, we are able to have up to the space itself, we were approved to have 12 residents in the first portion of the home. We will not have 12 residents in the first portion of the home. The upstairs bedroom will be considered a home plus assisted living, so which would be a semi-private room that can hold 1 to 3 residents. The rest of the dwelling of the home did not meet the qualifications to have additional residents to live there, but only to live in the first bedroom, which would be 1 to 3 residents. So there's that. There won't be any more than 3 people living in the home at one time. But we can, if someone wanted to come for day services, they would be there visiting during business hours and then going back to their home or whoever their caretaker would be, if that would be the case. The unit in the back has also passed inspection for the state of Kansas and KDHE requirements. We did not have to have a fire marshal come out because they do not recommend fire marshals coming out for anything less than 3 residents living in the space. So the back portion will just be used for additional business operations, storage, and as well as adult day stay.
Can you speak up a little bit?
Adult day stay program in the back dwelling and office, other operations for the business and storage area.
So I do have a quick question. Will you be accepting Medicaid patients?
No.
Okay.
My question is, so the back building will have no residents or will have residents?
Yes, sir. So the back portion will be, it can be a part of we have been approved to run it as an adult day stay program. Adult day stay can be in the front dwelling and in the back if we choose to. And the back section was approved to have up to 10 residents.
But they won't be living there,
They
correct?
will
They'd be
not
there
be
for like
living
daytime activities.
Like a daycare?
bingo or something.
Like a
Yes,
daycare
adult
facility?
daycare.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes,
I got that. But the front will be, they'll be living there?
3 is the max that could live. 3 is the max that could live there for a home plus.
Okay.
I have 2 other bedrooms that if someone who wanted independent living, we are approved to allow them to be there for independent living.
Like a private pay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
The home plus would be the section that would receive assisted living services,
Okay.
if you understand what
The only reason, because the window, as you can see, is
the house is made very differently.
fire codes are out now, so these are not fire code compliant, so that's the reason
So
why.
the dwelling, the requirement for the state of Kansas is that the bedrooms had to be at ground level. And if you walk into the front door, you are, onto the left is a bedroom that can hold 3 home plus residents. And then you go down some stairs, and that's considered the main level of the home. State KDHE requires that those bedrooms need to be at ground level. And since it's the way the house is built, it looks underground. So,
Will you be living there as well?
no, ma'am.
No, okay.
So we will have 24-hour care for those individuals that are taking advantage of the Home Plus program, assisted living. And it'll be based on shifts. So to answer your concerns earlier, 24-hour care, yes. It'll be broken down in either 3 shifts or 12-hour shifts for staff. So you won't see more than 1 to 2 staff member cars there. And yes, during business hours, you may see people who not everybody are signed up for these services, but you may see physical therapists come in and out of the dwelling. You may see medication deliverers come in to drop meds off. You may see Hy-Vee or any type of Walmart grocery store delivering groceries if we're not delivering them ourselves. Those are going to be probably the main thing. Family members might come in and out, to visit their loved ones. Sometimes we have some that don't have family that come in.
On your staff, will you have practical nurse on call? Practical licensed nurse on call?
Well, yes, so we will have a nurse on call if need be, if in the case of emergency, but I'm the first primary contact.
So
An operator.
I've seen Home Plus facilities like this before, and they're great programs. I've not seen one where they don't own the building, that they're leasing it. So
You
is your
don't have to own it, you can lease it.
Yeah, is the lease just like a 1-year lease right now?
So currently, yes, so I will renew when that time comes each year.
And then is the owner of the home here?
She is my understanding, I have not met her. We are handling through her property management company who allows us to come in and do business as what we are.
So if somebody decides to live there and then the renewal comes up, I guess you would, and you couldn't renew, then you would have to just give them time to move to another facility if they were currently living there, just like
Now, why might we not be able to renew? I mean,
maybe they want to sell the place.
I think you mean
yeah.
with the lease.
Yes, with the lease of the home. Yeah.
so they give us adequate amount of information to let us know of any plans of their home. And then that gives us time to,
relocate
what we
them.
need to do and relocate.
So how much time did they give you to?
60 days.
60 days?
Yes, sir.
I know of a lot of assisted care facilities that are leased because they have an investor that's built the building and they rent it out, so. But this is a little smaller operation. And the community homes, I've seen a couple of those too, where they have maybe 6 to 8 people.
Yeah,
You see
so
a lot
it
of
is a
these out in
residential.
Johnson County, I mean, this is new to Leavenworth, Sonoma, because they're all out in Johnson County everywhere.
Yeah.
And we do have a lot of patients that we take care of. They had to get bused out of Leavenworth to go to KCK area. So they want to stay in Leavenworth. There's no place to take them. So.
I got you.
Can you state your name, sir?
Oh, Anthony Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do I need to put the address of the property on my personal address?
You can put the property.
All right, thank you.
So are you applying for licensing now?
So yes, we are going through the state of Kansas. We've already applied for our licensure, we've already had our inspections. So now it's just the sweet Kansas state taking their time, going through all of our policies and procedures.
I have no question.
Anybody else have any questions?
I don't have any more.
So-
I guess that open.
We need to open the public hearing.
Yeah, let's open to the public.
You step up to the podium, sir, if you can.
That's all right.
Can we open the public hearing?
I'm with
You need
the
to open the public
church
hearing.
We're opening a public hearing.
Household of Faith, which
Uh-huh.
is right next to 21 on 20.
What was your name?
And just a couple of concerns. I'm not against that or for that either way. But I know coming over the crest of that hill, coming down to 20th is a little iffy sometimes for traffic coming from out in the county. Because I pulled out a couple times out of the church, I was like, where'd that car come from? You know, on my rear bumper. That might help if there's more congestion there, I don't know. Second is, will the current water pipes, sewer pipes going out that way support the X-ray efforts going on from their business? I don't know the answer. I just bring that up because I know we argued with the city a long time ago when we built that church there. Put the pipes through before we laid the parking lot, and they did finally. I just don't know what level or what size they are.
And was that considered as part of the staff putting that together?
The capacity of the sewer
Yeah,
lines.
just utilities, just in general.
No, that was
Okay.
not looked at.
I would think if you're having a maximum of 3 people.
Six.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
I would say if you're having a maximum of 3 people living there,
Right.
I think it was 6.
So I applied for 6 originally, but since then the inspection has come back. And so we can have 6 assisted living residents, 3 assisted living residents in a home plus of the portion of the home. And if we choose to have independent living in the other 2 bedrooms, they do not mind that.
What would
That's
the,
why I put, so even it could be up to 5, basically.
what about the,
6 if there's a husband and wife that move in together.
the outpatient adult daycare traffic, would that,
Usually it's one physical.
sorry. You guys can share.
That's if the resident is requiring physical therapy, okay? It's
Okay.
not something that will
Sure.
be there every day. And usually, in this case, or instance, if we did have a resident that required physical therapy and occupational therapy, you would see 1 to 2 visits a week from a physical therapist or an occupational therapist for their specific care plan.
Okay, all right. Did we get his
And
name?
they're only there for an hour.
Okay.
sir.
Can you give us your name?
I signed in.
Okay, good deal, thanks. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
So this is all based on you getting your permit from the state, right?
Yes.
And we're waiting for that.
Yes.
Do you have a permit in Johnson County though?
We're in Lansing.
We currently live in Lansing, or our home office is in Lansing. I do not have a permit in Johnson County unless I go and find a beautiful home to get. I will then take the necessary steps like I'm doing today.
But
I
you don't
just thought
do-
maybe you were operating already.
No, ma'am,
somewhere
this is our
else.
very first one, so in trial and error. We didn't know that we needed to take the extra step as well. I kind of learned that along the way when, just a matter of asking questions.
Sure.
Then it came about, hey, I think this home used to be ran as an Airbnb. And so that's kind of how we discovered that we needed to go and take the extra steps, so I'm glad we did. So,
Sure.
yeah.
Are we closing the, public forum, or,
Pardon?
do we have to close the
Closing
public?
public.
Do we have
Yeah, do we have anybody else? Then we'll, anybody else need to speak? Then we'll close the
Oh,
public.
he wants to speak?
I just want to welcome you to the neighborhood.
There you go. Thank you. We'll close the public part of this.
I'll make a motion to approve the special use permit as it's written.
Subject to.
Based on the condition of them getting their permit.
That's written in there as well, yes.
Okay.
So I think it's in there.
I'll second that, based on those conditions.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you guys.
Yeah, good luck.
Hey,
That's something special you're doing.
No, you can leave, yeah. They don't need to stay today.
Thank you. I want to say that I've been around to many facilities. I visited all of the facilities here that Leavenworth and Lansing has to offer. And I think this is a nice addition. It gives it a different feel. It's more, self-quality care for each individual person. So you can have a little bit more personalized service and care plan for those individuals. And be able to give a bit more.
We have a very close friend that lives in one of those facilities in Johnson County. They're pretty nice.
Yes, beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Good luck.
All right.
Okay, so the final item is just this is just a preliminary review of our annual text amendments to the development regulations. I apologize, you got the wrong policy report in your
We're not talking about signs?
packet. I think the one that you got sent was about the section regarding the historic review process that you looked at back in April. This is our overall annual review. Most of the changes that we make as part of this annual process are clarifying language, just sort of minor housekeeping things, nothing really substantial. So I know you haven't had too much of a chance to look it over, but just sort of process-wise, this is just sort of your first look at it. We will schedule this for a public hearing for next month, and at that time, in your packet, you'll be provided with all of the language as it's being changed, and what the proposed changes are too. So I'll kind of run through a few of these that are making actual changes to our regulations and aren't just clarifying or housekeeping stuff.
Thank you.
In Article 4, we're adding language just stating that the width of right-of-way cannot be counted towards lot frontage requirements for parcels abutting a dead-end street. What we run into sometimes is that people are wanting to section off a lot or create a new lot or something. They're at the end of a dead-end street and they can't necessarily meet our lot frontage requirements, which is like 75 for most single family. And so they want to count the end of that dead-end right-of-way as part of their lot frontage. We don't like to have driveways coming off the end of a dead end. That can be confusing for folks who come up to that dead end and don't maybe recognize that it's not a continuation of the street. And so this is just adding language that doesn't allow that right-of-way width to be counted as lot frontage. We've run into that a few times recently that you guys may recall.
Yeah.
Is that what requires the hammerhead?
That's, a large part of it.
Okay.
Yeah, that dead end situation that we don't
had
like
one of those this
to, that can be confusing for drivers.
So the last one that we looked at is essentially on a dead end road. I know they weren't trying to replat or anything like that. So do things like that since it's not part of replatting?
Yeah, so that one I think actually had the required width, but sometimes a lot, that was a huge lot. Sometimes they may not be big enough to have the width, and so then they might be limited to having a driveway coming off into that dead end. So we want to just ensure that we have every opportunity that you don't have to have your driveway coming off the end of a dead end, and that you're actually meeting the intent of the development regulations to have a certain width of lot, and you're not kind of cheating that requirement by using that
easement in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
The other one in Article 4, that's kind of major, is adding language allowing for 3 detached accessory structures on parcels 2 acres or larger. Right now, it's just a blanket, you can only have 2 detached accessory structures. What we're running into with folks that have these large lots, is that most times it's gonna be totally warranted to have 3 detached accessory structures. That can include an above-ground pool, that can include a chicken coop, we've had that one come through, that it's all these accessory structures, a gazebo, it's not just, these huge storage buildings. So any of these 3 detached accessory structures are still gonna have to meet our regulatory requirements. If you have those larger parcels, you're gonna be able to have a 3rd detached accessory structure.
And what is it for one attached structure? How big a unit do you have to have? How big a yard do you have to have?
What was the question?
When you said 2, goes for lots of what size?
So right now, every property is limited to 2 detached accessory structures,
No matter their size?
no matter their size. And
Okay.
so the proposal is that parcels 2 acres or larger would be allowed 3.
Okay.
And where is that proposal coming from? Is that just like generated from the staff just
That's
based on
generated from
history?
requests that we get over the year, and a lot of these more substantial changes, that's what they come from. When we're seeing request after request after request, and we're having to tell people, you're gonna have to go to the Board of Zoning Appeals, and we start seeing a pattern, okay, we're seeing too many of these variance requests, this is something that we need to look at.
Just kind of clean up the
allowing,
language a
yeah.
little bit,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah.
Is that, I know we talked a couple of months ago about the people that were coming in paying the $350 for the non-conforming when they're trying to sell their property and they were just kind of hit with that. Will that be part of any of these changes?
That is not, and I'm working on a memo to get out to you guys, and kind of working with the city attorney on that. Generally, it's not good practice to just give blanket variances.
Sure.
And so, that's, something that I'm gonna address with you guys, but in terms of allowing 2-family dwellings by right and single family, which is what had
Yes.
come up with that, that's not proposed to be changed.
Okay.
So. In our parking chapter, Article 5, we're gonna add language to allow for solid surface paving stones to be used for single-family residential driveways. Paving with concrete or asphalt can be a pretty substantial cost burden to folks, and it's also not always the most environmentally conscious choice. There's a lot of solid surface paving stone options that can be used for single-family residential driveways. And so right now, folks do not have the option to use those, and so just giving them that option. So the apron of driveways that's in the right-of-way, that's still gonna have to be up to city standards, poured concrete, and there's very specific requirements for that. But then just giving them the opportunity to use some of these other paving methods that are available, that are a lot of times more cost effective and environmentally friendly.
Do we have any requirements on type of paving stones?
No.
Will there be,
Yeah.
will there be any type of regulation? Like if I come up with an idea to just do 2-liter pop cans, just
I mean, we
split out of my
can get
driveway?
some, we can get some
That has to be
specifics.
Paving stone.
Well,
Yeah,
I
we can get
pour
some
concrete
specifics in
into
there.
it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, just like from an engineering standpoint, I don't want somebody to be like, oh, now
Yep, and I
I can
mean,
just do it all in
What
one.
I'm gonna tell you is likely what that requirement be is that if you choose to use paving stones, that it would need to be approved by our Public Works Department. Since those technologies change pretty
Yes.
quickly. And so we certainly don't wanna limit people by, okay, here's what's available this year.
Right.
And it's gonna change in 18 months and there's gonna be a new product available, but it wasn't accounted for at the time. So what that language will likely be is that if you opt to use that, the paving stones, that it would need to be a material approved by our Public Works Department.
Okay.
Yeah,
So.
and cause we get into watershed and
Yep.
all of that, that if somebody wants to be a jerk about it, they can build like the craziest driveway to get water off of their property or pour
Yeah.
whatever they want, so
But-
I just wanna.
Gravel is not
Right? Is that
classified
what you
as
said,
paving
a
stone.
secondary driveway, not the main driveway?
No, for a single-family residential.
So any old driveway?
For a single-family residential, yes. Mhm.
environmental.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
there's a lot of,
I just
pervious
know some people that will take
paving
advantage.
options.
And do something crazy.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Of
I
that
bet they
paving
can come up with
stones
some really cool stuff.
undefined.
yeah, there's a lot of options for folks to
Yeah.
utilize out there.
It's open to interpretation very
Alright.
widely.
Yeah, so, and again, we can put that requirement in there that it be approved by our Public Works Department in terms of, engineered quality, and it's gonna hold up to cars driving on it and that type of thing.
Okay.
In the sign chapter, we've discovered that we don't have language to allow for a freestanding monument sign for a multifamily complex, so, our regulations are broken out basically residential and commercial, and so we don't have a method for, allowing by right a monument sign for like an apartment complex, so just adding language accounting for that situation.
It's kind of crazy.
Do we know what that's gonna be?
Because they exist.
No, we're still working on it.
They're already there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then, just adding language to allow for wall signage for tenants that may not have an exterior wall. Right now, the way it's worded is that, in commercial districts, if you wanna have an outside wall sign, it has to be placed on the portion of the wall that adjoins your business, your exterior wall. And there's plenty of situations, especially in downtown, where there may be tenants in multi-tenant buildings that don't have an exterior wall or don't have an exterior wall on a visible side of the building, and so just adding language to account for those situations so those interior tenants could still have exterior wall signage.
Is it based on the tenant or who owns the building? Because if somebody owns like 3 parcels within a block, like on Cherokee or whatever, they could put up in that 3 parcel area, they could put up a sign.
So
Or whatever tenant.
so a wall sign has to be attached to the building where the business is.
And the tenant, and if you're the 4th tenant in that building, you're probably gonna rent that building, and if you want a wall sign, outside wall sign, you gotta get that in your lease.
But you may not, what I'm saying is there's commercial buildings where those interior tenants may not have an outside wall.
Right.
They may be completely interior, you walk in and there's,
Yes.
lobby space,
Yeah.
whatever. And so right now, our regulations don't allow for those interior tenants to have exterior wall signs, regardless of what's in their lease. They could not get an exterior wall sign. And we've had several, again, requests come through the BZA to allow that exterior wall signage because they don't have
Sure,
an
like
exterior
the
wall.
antique mall and
Yeah,
all of
something
that
like
that's
that.
downtown.
Yeah.
That,
So it's still not gonna be, signs everywhere, they're still gonna have to meet, regulations, but just allowing for those interior tenants to have exterior wall signage to advertise their business.
Okay.
And then just in the use table, including that multifamily dwellings are allowed in the central business district. I suspect that was omitted in error at some point, since we know that we do have several multifamily properties downtown. And the purpose of a central business district is to allow for a whole variety of uses, typically including, multifamily, mixed use, commercial, all of that. And so, looking back through our regulations, that was included at some point, and so like I said, I suspect that just got
Left out.
changed inadvertently in some update at some point, but just putting that back in, that multifamily is allowed downtown. And there are still regulations that, for in the central business district on the first floor, it has to be commercial for the first so many feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And if one person owns multiple of those apartments that are upstairs, is that considered a multifamily or are they?
Yeah, if it's in the
individual?
same building.
If it's in the same building, then that's considered
Yeah.
multifamily.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
We got a lot of those buildings downtown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yep.
Okay.
So those are kind of the main ones. There a lot of the rest is kind of just cleanup. And again, I apologize you guys didn't get a chance to look at this ahead of time. So when we have our next meeting, you'll be given the specific language that'll come out ahead of time. If in the meantime you have any questions about any of this stuff, please let me know. Or if there's anything else that you guys can think of that has come up or just that you want us to look at, again, please let us know. and we'll,
Well, these things have already gone through the historic preservation folks before it comes to us.
So the attachment you have in the packet actually has already gone through and it's been adopted.
Okay.
yeah, so nothing in here needs to go through historic preservation.
Okay, but they're all, that's what I'm asking, is
Yeah.
that they're cool with all of this. They read through this and they
We
signed
can provide it to them, but none of it is specifically related to historic preservation. That's kind of a separate
Sure.
review and a separate set of requirements.
Okay,
So-
I just don't wanna approve anything that then is, they see it and they're like, oh, wait, no, that goes against what we're trying to do.
Yeah, no,
as
there's
far
nothing
as
in here that's in
outside.
conflict with,
Okay.
we have there's a specific article in the development regulations for historic preservation, and so none of this is affecting that.
Okay, got it, alright.
So there's no, action required on this. Again, this was just kind of for informational purposes. And you'll see it back with the exact language that's being proposed, at the next meeting for the public hearing.
Thank you.
And we will have a December meeting, now with one more item.
I know, now we know.
Now, hopefully not all of us are gonna miss that we'll be here. You'll have a quorum for the December meeting.
If we don't, it'll be in
What is-
December.
What day will that be?
First Monday,
December
right?
4th.
December 4th?
Won't be here.
Okay.
I'll be here, I should be here.
Alright. You have a gavel? Use your imaginary gavel.
I got one at home, I'll bring it.
They have one for the city commission, they don't let us use it, I guess, though.
Well.
We're not cool enough, right, Ed?
Ed, what's
All
the
right,
deal?
are we
What's the
closing-
deal,
are we
Ed?
closed? Wait, did we actually do a motion to close the meeting?
I'll
No.
move.
No.
I second.
Did you do that?
No, yes.
What are we doing, Don?
We're just adjourning the meeting.
Come on
Okay,
now.
adjourn it.
Yeah,
Let's
we've
make
been
it
here- We've
official.
been here long enough.
Hey, Roger's Rules of Order.
But for the adjournment.
Roberts.
Robert.
Yeah, see, it's
Roger.